is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome to the Tweens and Social Media webinar. My name is Barb Gettleman and I will be your technical producer and moderator this evening. This webinar will be presented by Mary Belvin, who is our current chairman of field representatives, along with Catherine Roebuck, who is our social media and communications specialist at headquarters. Our goal this evening is to share with you useful information for moms of tween and teens as they attempt to navigate parenting in a world of social media. Before we start tonight's presentation, let's take a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the webinar control panel. On the right side of your screen, you will see the attendee control panel, and on the left is the webinar viewer window. This viewer window will display the presenter's screen when the webinar begins. The control panel can be minimized or expanded by clicking on the horizontal double arrow button in the upper left corner. Minimizing the panel allows a better view of the presentation. Take a moment right now to practice. There are a few features of this control panel that the attendees should know. First, be familiar with the Raise Your Hand button. This button is located along the left side of the control panel, and it allows you to virtually raise your hand if you have a question or if you want to respond to a question being asked by the presenters. Click this button to raise your hand now. Clicking again will lower your hand. Another important feature of the control panel is the questions pane. To submit a question, it's very simple. All you need to do is type it into the question box. These may be questions related to Mary and Catherine's presentation, or they may be technical questions related to the GoToWebinar system. You may also be asked by the presenter to type your ideas or responses as part of an exercise during this particular webinar. Please send a quick note in your questions pane right now, ladies, so that we know you can understand and easily utilize this portion of the control panel. I don't see any right now, but that's okay. Be sure to stay attentive and to interact as much as possible because Mary and Catherine has really put together a wonderful webinar. The quality of your experience depends on your attention and participation. Try to avoid the distractions of responding to personal emails, checking Facebook, Instagram, or working on other tasks on your computer. If you need to step away for a moment, do not close the GoToWebinar window as you'll be required to log in again if you wish to rejoin the session. If you experience any problems with the audio, one possible solution is to use the conference call number and listen to the presentation using your phone. Click the Use Telephone option in the audio pane of your control panel to view the conference call number. This webinar is being recorded and the online archive will be available to view on the CAPA website in approximately 2 weeks. And now it is my honor and humble privilege to hand the virtual microphone off to Chairman of Field Representatives Mary Belvin and Catherine Roebuck. Ladies, take it away.
Thank you, Barb. Well, we're going to start tonight with who we are, so you know who you're hearing through the microphone. And I threw up my 3 test subjects here so that when I was asked to do this, I did some social experimenting on my 2 youngest, my current tween and my soon-to-be tween, to just to use them as a real-life case study here. Catherine, would you like to say hello?
Hi, I'm Catherine. I work at headquarters and I'm in charge of all the social media that you see from Facebook to Twitter, Instagram, all the good stuff.
All right, well, we're just going to jump right in. What is a tween? A tween is defined as someone between the ages of 9 to 14. Usually these people are extremely egocentric. They are in the world where everything surrounds around them. They feel like when they walk into a room that every single head is turning and they're being examined, looked at, stared at, when we all know as adults that that is simply not true, that we are all too busy and caught up in our own lives. But a tween feels that everyone is looking at them, and that means in the real world and in the virtual world of social media. And I think that that plays a huge part in how they feel and what their presence online is. One of the biggest tools I think a mom can have for navigating the waters is Urban Dictionary. And whenever I find something that I am not sure what it means, I go straight to Urban Dictionary and look it up. It will be your best friend as a mom of a tween in today's world. I discovered this working with Kappa with our recent graduates on the field representatives team. They would say things and I would have no idea what they meant, and in an effort to not feel silly, that became my best asset. Before we talk about social media and a tween, let's talk about where is the tween mind. Tweens are centered on very concrete things. They are not yet to the point of abstract thinking, and this causes trouble with them in social media. We can talk about the what ifs, and we can talk about actions that you do today and how they will impact you in the future. But because developmentally where a tween mindset is, they just have a lot of trouble understanding that something that they do today will remain on the web and be there and haunt them in the future. So it's our job as parents to help them be mindful of that and understand what they are doing has an impact. The other thing about a tween mind is that they are coming into their own and they need help, and that they have opinions and feelings, but making sure how they voice those through posts, tweets, etc., are worded appropriately and are careful so that they are not being offensive to others. There are certain milestones that happen developmentally between being a child and moving into the teenage years. And the group identity is so difficult. Any of us who have tweens and teens know that they're struggling and that they want so badly to have acceptance, and they want to feel that egocentrism that I mentioned earlier. They want to feel that when they walk into a room that they are accepted and that they aren't being ostracized for anything. They do not, as you can see, it talks here that they have anxiety, and that those are moving from little kid anxieties to real world anxieties. And with social media, that plays a big role, because as they start to engage in things like Twitter and other social media applications, they are beginning to see more worldly events and things that you cannot protect them from. Is one of the things I loved is that we had old school texting. It was just in the form of notes. But now anything that they do can be, it's not private, it can be screenshot and it can be put out there and go bigger than they ever imagined. And that again goes back to the actions that they do today can have effects on them in the future. So doing my research with this, I found a video that I thought was extremely interesting and an important point of view. So I'd like for us to watch that now together. It's about 4 minutes. It's not graphically exciting, but I think the message and the thought process for parents, a starting off discussion point, is of interest. So I'm going to play that now.
A simple thought: monkeys, that are known to have a developed social life, organize in small groups of several dozen members. The size of each of these groups is limited. In order for them to function, all members of the group need to know each other well. The average size of the group changes from 20 to 50 members. When the number of monkeys in a group passes a certain threshold, the social order crumbles, and the group tends to split into two separate groups. A similar situation can be found amongst humans as well. The invention of language and gossip has helped to shape larger and more stable groups. Sociological research indicates that the maximum natural size of a group of humans is roughly 150 members. Most humans are just incapable of intimately knowing more than 150 people, so even today the threshold of human organization is around the number of 150 members. Man is a social creature, and the feeling of loneliness can drive him mad, yet the Western modern world sanctions individuality. The individual is measured by personal achievements, such as having a career, wealth, a self-image, and consumerism. In this course of action, many people lose their social and familial connections in favor of a self-actualization ideal. As the social fabric in the Western world weakens, it is not surprising that more and more people define themselves as lonely, and thus, loneliness has become the most common ailment of the modern world. One of the possible reasons for this ailment is the online social network. In a world where time is money, in which our surroundings heavily pressure us to achieve more and more, our social life becomes tainted and more demanding than ever before. And then there's technology. Simpler, hopeful, optimistic, ever young. We become addicted to virtual romance, disguised by the social network which supplies an impressive platform that allows us to manage our social life most effectively. However, our fantasies about substitutions are starting to take a toll. We're collecting friends like stamps, not distincting quantity versus quality, and convert the deep meaning and intimacy of friendship with exchanging photos and chat conversations. By doing so, we're sacrificing conversation for mere connection, and so a paradoxical situation is created, in which we claim to have many friends while actually being lonely. So what is the problem in having a conversation? Well, it takes place in real time, and you can't control what you're going to say, and that is the bottom line. Texting, email, posting, all of these things let us present the self as we want it to be. We get to edit, and that means we get to delete. Instead of building true friendships, we're obsessed with endless personal promotion, investing hours on end building our profile, pursuing the optimal order of words in our next message, choosing the pictures in which we look our best, all of which is meant to serve as a desirable image of who we are. We're expecting more from technology and less from each other. The social networks aren't just changing what we're doing, but also who we are. And that's because technology appeals to us most where we are most vulnerable. And we are vulnerable. We are alone, or we're afraid of intimacy, while the social networks offer us three gratifying fantasies. One, that we can put our attention wherever we want it to be. Two, that we will always be heard. And three, that we will never have to be alone. And that third idea, that we will never have to be alone, is central to changing our psyches. It's shaping a new way of being. The best way to describe it is, I share, therefore, I am. We use technology to define ourselves, by sharing our thoughts and feelings, even as we're having them. Furthermore, we're faking experiences so we'll have something to share, so we can feel alive. We slip into thinking that always being connected is going to make us feel less alone, but we are at risk because the opposite is true. If we are not able to be alone, we're only going to know how to be lonely.
I think that the thought of loneliness is interesting because tweens are replacing face-to-face contact with, oh, sorry. Hang on just one second. Tweens are replacing the face-to-face contact and discussions with the messages, quick chats, snapping, having a conversation through pictures, and they can be carrying on a conversation with 6 different people alone and at home. And when I mentioned earlier about my test subjects, I really started watching this, and one of the things that is interesting developmentally with tweens is that they never have downtime. And I think that that's important because with text conversations and chatting and continuing, they never have that time where they get to unplug and walk away. And we as parents have to establish what works for our families. Is it that you're going to ask them that you keep their phone or their device, iPad, whatever it is, out of their rooms so that they have from a certain time at the night on? Is it that from dinner time through bedtime that they can't have their device? Is it that there's going to be nothing in the mornings before school? And you have to balance that out, because if you take a stand as a parent that you're not going to allow your child to have it, that is absolutely wonderful and fine, but you're fighting an uphill battle, because that then goes into the whole conversation of, are you making them the odd men out, which is, again, completely fine, but you have to sort of decide what's a happy medium there that helps them navigate these waters in these times when they come to you for these questions, and you can have a little bit more influence and monitoring of them. I pulled from the American Academy of Pediatrics what their positive and their negative stand on social media. And to go back to my own social experiment, I allowed my 8-year-old to get Snapchat specifically for this purpose. I wanted to see what she would do with it, the things that she would Snapchat with other people. And it was a hot item for about 4 weeks, and then we were done with it. Of course, she had limited groups. I only allowed her to make a friend or have a Snapchat relationship with controlled people that knew what I was doing. But once she got over the news of it, it was gone. So I think that sometimes allowing teens to have some of these applications versus making it that forbidden fruit might be an interesting and allow, as the American Academy of Pediatrics talks about, allow them to have some of that self-regulation once it's not a new item anymore. We do need to talk about the best balance in our families and setting up those appropriate limits for them. And some of this can be done really simply by limits on their devices. Monetary limits are, they understand that. They understand the data usage. They understand when they get a message from someone else that's not you, if you set that up on their account. Sometimes that helps. One of the things I find interesting is Facebook is really not anything we're talking about with tweens. That's not something they're more moved on to. And I also find it really funny that the word MySpace is mentioned in here. Most tweens would have no clue what that is. But I do find it intriguing that they put 91% have a photo, 71 are putting their school name, where they live, email addresses, and phone numbers. And those are things as parents that we can go in and help them make sure that they, in their safety settings, that they do not, in their profile, that they do not have those very dangerous pieces of information. And Catherine's going to talk a little bit about specifics of safety as we move on. So basically, I'm going to go over, and I am by no means an expert on each of these social media sites, but I'm going to tell you right now today the 15 hottest social media sites for tweens. Twitter is number 1. Most people know and do Twitter themselves as adults. What you need to know about that basically is that it is extremely difficult as a tween parent to monitor that. There are very few measures in place, and they're exposed to all kinds of information. Instagram is the next. It is a picture based social media site. They often, what's important again from the tween development standpoint, is they often measure their self-esteem on the number of likes they get from a post that they've put up. And this talks about, going back to the video that we watched, of where they basically craft and create the images that they want people to see, not necessarily themselves being real. There's a fabulous movement that was going on about taking pictures without makeup and taking real pictures. And that is something that with that mindset that tweens have, that they're not quite there. Snapchat, there's a lot of media buzz about Snapchat, and there's been some changes in Snapchat. The biggest thing that people think about Snapchat and tweens is that they think that they can send some images to one another and that they will go away. You can easily take a screenshot. Now, when someone screenshots something that you sent on Snapchat, you know that a picture has been taken of that. But this Snapchat application or app is something that people will often try to send pictures, images that maybe are a little on the edge of what they think is okay, and they can also get in trouble with those. Tumblr. Kappa has been addressing some Tumblr issues of late. Tumblr is a fabulous way to blog. People are using that for a blogging site. It can be great. What we're finding with Tumblrs, though, is that other websites are ranking people's Tumblrs. You know, hottest girl in the middle school Tumblr. There are all kinds of sites where then you get in a little bit of trouble with a Tumblr site. Pornography is extremely popular on Tumblr, and it's really easy for anyone to get that, especially tweens. There's no way really to block that. A new one is Google Plus. I say that it's a lot of schools that are involving electronic devices and piloting that have Google accounts for children through the school system. Because they can have Google accounts for students at a younger age, then this is something that children think that their parents feel is a little bit safer, simply because it's got the Google name to attach to it. So that's just something you want to see and watch out for. And this webinar will be archived, and you can go back and read and remember and look at all the safety settings from these. Vine is a video-based, it's 6 seconds, and one of the things that I think is interesting about this is that be careful, because children think it's funny to video their parents and put videos up of you. But inappropriate videos are easily found on Vine, and there's just really no way there's no safety setting to block that. The next one is the Want, Need, Love. It combines shopping and fashion. And remember when we talked about where's the mindset of the tween? This is a PR professional's dream for a tween. This is where they want to push the products that they want to make the hottest items. This is where they come to you and they say, Mom, I have to have, whatever it is that's the hottest item. And it's, again, that egocentrism, because if I don't have it, everyone is going to realize that I'm not wearing it. And that's one more thing we parents are swimming upstream against. Kick is another one. It is, a lot of kids use it because there are no character limits, and there are no limits on messages. I will tell you, it is one that has a lot of inappropriate. In just putting together this PowerPoint, I simply Googled the logo of Kick, and my computer screen filled with all kinds of inappropriate images. And if that is all I got from searching for a logo, you can imagine what your kids are seeing when they are on that website or using that app. Uvu, I'm not even sure if I'm saying if it's Ovo or Uvu, but that is a group chat. Do you all remember Party Lines back in the 80s and 90s? It's just moved it to a different forum. And it's just a different way so that they can be in contact with groups of people. We talked earlier about their group identity. They need to be in that group. They need to be accepted. And this is one of those. It's hard for kids because it can be exclusionary, and that is, again, hurtful to their self-esteem. Yik Yak is one that has gotten a lot of press as well. I like to refer to this one as your virtual bathroom stall. You know, when people write all kinds of things, comments, thoughts, that's what this is. The scary part of this one is that it lets people know that you're within a 1.5 mile radius of them. And that's really scary, because that lets someone who might not have your children's best interest at heart know exactly where they are and that they're that close. This one is one a lot of schools are banning. It's just, I mean, every parent, I feel like, can make their own decisions, but if there was one I was going to tell you to watch out for, it would be this one. Ask. It opens the door for just really saying not kind things about people. It's people, teachers, you name it. It's a place where people can just say whatever they want, and make opinions. And because it can be anonymous, that people feel like that they can hide behind that, and it is one of those cyberbullying doors that can be opened. The WhatsApp is one that makers use. They push you to be friends with other people. It's designed to be inclusive and to possibly include people that you might not know into your group. And as a parent of a tween, we talked earlier also about wanting to get a lot of likes, wanting to have that acceptance, and sometimes they don't understand at the tween mindset that it's not okay to allow social media friends with people that you don't know, that opens the door for scary situations. So that's one of the cautionary tales of this website. This is another type chat room type thing. It's a video chat. It's one of the newer ones. I laugh. I think it's more like an old, a newfangled AOL chat room. And the scary part about this is that it's not people that your children will know. And the last one is Yo. It's just a short and sweet that lets people know it's taken off. It's one of the newer apps that's about out. And remember, Urban Dictionary will be your best friend if you don't understand what is going on in this app. So those are just the top hottest 15 social media apps right now that are on the map of this last one, that are on the map of your tween. This one is extremely scary. Pulls to the point of concrete thinking, the cause and effect that they don't understand. When they post something online, they think it's being confidential and it's easily traced to them. So this one, we just have to remember that as a parent out there, as a mom, these are the things you need to look out for. Know what's on your child's phone, and remember when you're looking at all these, don't just to throw them out, but just think, where is my child's mindset developmentally with relation to these apps? So now that you know what they are, Catherine, the social media expert from headquarters, is going to tell us some things that we can do as a parent with your security settings to help protect your children. Catherine, take it away.
Alrighty, so some security settings and some top tips. They vary from app to app. It kind of depends on what app your tween is using, but some of the more broader ones is that you're going to want to keep your teen's profile private so that only family and people you know see photos, important dates, and other information. If you can't keep it private, definitely it's time to discuss with your teen what's appropriate to share with the public and why. Make sure they choose a strong password that can't be guessed and that it gets changed every 3 months. And another important thing is to use different usernames and different passwords for each app that they have. If they use the same one all the time for many of their sites, like a lot of us do, if someone figures out your information for one app, now they have access to everything. A good thing to do would be to educate yourself about the app or the site, evaluate the sites that your tween's planning to use, and make sure that you and your tween understand the privacy policy and the code of conduct. Most of them follow state, federal, and local laws, but there are also other things that certain apps will ban. You can find out if the site monitors content that people post, and many sites, such as Kik, do have a parent's guide that walks you through the security settings they offer so that you can know exactly what they have to offer for you when you're setting this up for your tween. When you're starting a new account, I'd recommend sitting down and walking your tween through the process. Take the time to set the security settings and discuss why you want to set something like you do. I know that a lot of tweens are going to fight back a little bit if you say that they can't, share that photo of them at the swimming pool over the weekend, but eventually they'll thank you for it. Keep up on the updates to your teens' apps. If a new feature is unveiled, such as Instagram's direct messaging, which they just released earlier this year, sit down with your tween, talk through it with them, and make sure if there are any new security features to set, that you set those as well. You want to create a strong username for your tweens accounts. A good username won't reveal about how old they are, where they live, or their gender. And it should not be the same as their email addresses or use their full names. And if an app has geolocation settings, which just means that the app is always following where you are, Facebook does have this now where you can find out exactly where your friends are if they have a certain feature turned on. You just want to make sure that you have that turned off for the apps that do allow it. And it can be done through your teen's phone settings. So for keeping your tween safe, limit what they are allowed to post. You can remind teens that when they post something online, it's there forever. They may be able to delete the original post, but it will be archived. There's not any privacy anymore, and a lot of teens don't realize that or don't understand that it can come back from what they suppose is the grave once they delete it. And also make sure they're not posting personal details, including phone numbers, home address, the name of their school, or obviously their social security number. Make sure they don't share passwords, not to anybody except for you. Only allow them to publish photos and videos that don't jeopardize their safety or integrity. A lot of people don't realize how creepy some people are on the internet, and that a simple photo of them in front of, their school sign, somebody now knows where they go to school. And never allow them to accept friend requests from people they don't know. Go through their friend list, make sure they know everyone in person or that the account they are following is posting appropriate things. You're going to want to keep an open dialogue. Ask them to let you know if they've received private messages from strangers or from someone at school who is teasing, harassing, or threatening them. Unfortunately, there are so many cases of cyberbullying where people are saying terrible things just because they're hiding behind a computer, things that they would never say to the face of somebody else. And it's really important, especially nowadays, to really keep an eye out for those situations. Periodically monitor your teens' accounts. If you notice something inappropriate, sit down with them and discuss it. Explain why you are concerned and listen to the reasons of why they posted it in the first place. They probably won't realize why you're concerned, or they think, oh, it's no big deal. But if you sit down and talk with them, you maybe get somewhere. And if you notice that your child has a social media account you did not approve, or if they're using it inappropriately, you can contact the site to ask them to remove their account. A lot of sites have age limits in place and places for parents to go and report if they want their child's account deleted. So it's really just a matter of reaching out to the different apps and looking through those settings and finding out who to contact and get their account deleted. Questions, anybody?
So far, Catherine, I have not received any questions from any of our participants this evening.
All right, well, Mary, it's back to you.
Really, I think, as anyone can tell from what we've said, is just knowledge is power, and knowledge of what it is that your children are using online, and knowledge of who they are friends with, and knowledge of talking with them and keeping an open dialogue, I think, is the heart of keeping them safe online. And unfortunately for us, you have to stay on top of the latest, newest thing that's coming out, because it is a full-time job to keep up with that. But there is a happy medium for your children to be able to develop in this world of social media and use it for the positives that are outlined for them. So if there's no questions, I think that we will conclude our webinar this evening.
I found one question from Laura.
Oh, yeah.
How can we keep up with the latest social media apps, and where's the best place to learn about new ones?
Okay.
I would personally recommend just looking on websites. There's a good one. It's called Mashable, and I'll type that in here for you. It is a website that has a social media section. They're always posting about the newest social, like new security measures. Keep up on even going to your app store on your iPhone or on your Droid and just seeing there's a top list, and you can actually search by social media apps, and that will give you a really good idea of, as well, of what kids are using today. And then when it comes to keeping up with the current ones, you can always sign up for Google Alerts. You could sign up for pretty much like a RSS feed that will bring in the latest social media news. And I just sent the link for that Mashable website.
I see it, Catherine. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any other questions for Mary and Catherine this evening, ladies? Well, if you notice down in your chat box, I have provided you with Mary Belvin and Catherine Roebuck's email contacts. So if you have any further questions after tonight's presentation, do not hesitate to contact them directly. Thank you again to Catherine, and of course to you, dear friend Mary, for leading this session. And thank you for all of you who were participants in this evening's presentation. If, like I said earlier, if you have any questions, you have Mary and Catherine's contacts. If you'd like to become more involved in CAPA's virtual training and webinar programming, we would love to have you join our producer team. Truly, it is a very simple assignment, believe me. You can contact Karen Holmes at CAPA headquarters for details, and I've just provided her first and last name and email contact down in the chat box. The benefits truly are excellent because you get to work with other CAPAs from throughout this nation and in Canada, and it's just a wonderful way to stretch yourself as a leader and learning new skill sets. As we close the webinar, a survey will open on your screen. You'll be prompted to respond to a few evaluation questions. Please take a few moments to share your thoughts on tonight's webinar. Your feedback will help us to shape future webinar training events for our education department. You have Karen Holmes's contacts. Ladies, thank you all so very much for sharing your time with us this evening, and have a wonderful rest of your night. Good evening and good night.